Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Murphy with Nationwide's Loss Control Services in Des Moines. Thank you for taking some time this morning to spend it with us on our topic of risk management in daycares. A couple notes ahead of the webinar. Anyone listening to this webinar, you are in listen-only mode. That helps preserve the quality of the webinar for other listeners as well as the recording. If you do have a question, go ahead and type your question in using either the chat or the questions feature over on the right-hand side of your screen. This morning, our speaker is Mary Chelf. Mary is a senior technical consultant for loss control services at Nationwide. She has over 30 years of experience in loss control within the insurance industry. Joining Nationwide in 2005, Mary has held several different roles from field associate, manager, director to staff. She is currently the national lead for the specialty care program that encompasses human services and senior living. So Mary, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Chelf, as Chris said. I am part of the Nationwide Specialty Care Program team, and my underwriting partners write a variety of human service accounts, with the majority being daycares. We want to come alongside you and provide some insight into common causes of loss for your industry and some solutions to protect you against these losses. Running a daycare operation should be joyous, but uncontrolled hazards could quickly turn your joy to anger, fear, disgust, or sadness. Today, we will be discussing the different hazards that can be encountered in the daycare operation as we look at daycares from the inside out. As the Disney movie Inside Out portrayed, you can turn your fears regarding potential losses to joy by being aware of the hazards you encounter and knowing how to protect yourself. What are the types of losses experienced by daycares in the U.S.? The study referred to on the USA Child Care Aware website was done over 10 years ago, and there is nothing more current. There is no national reporting database or consistency. As you can see, not all our states are even required to report on fatalities. The study identifies the most frequent type of hazards resulting in fatalities. Note, these are from unintentional injuries. As you can see, the top one is left in vehicle. As of August 2017, an average of 37 children die in hot cars every year. It also recognizes the most serious types of injuries that are reported. Today, we're going to address controls to help reduce fatalities and serious injuries in daycares. We're going to start at the heart of the organization, your people. It's often said that you hire your problems, and this would be especially true for your industry. It's imperative to get the right people in place by proper screening. Screening is ultimately done to identify potentially abusive employees. Screening is more than just an application and calling a previous employer. Screening should consist of the following, which you'll always want to contact your local counsel for recommendations, but the basic screening would include an interview, written application, reference checks, both for employment and personal, and education verification. Evaluation of skill development or competencies can be done through on-the-job observation. You'll want to do a multi-level criminal background check through the local, state, FBI, National Sex Offender Public Registry, and when applicable, you should be checking motor vehicle records if the employee is to be driving. If possible, screening should take place prior to hire. If that isn't possible, then the employee should be restricted to duties where they are supervised or another employee is present. If your new hire screening indicates as an adult they had a crime against a child or a dependent adult, they should be dismissed immediately. There may be times when additional screening is warranted. An example may be for children who may be particularly vulnerable to abuse. Additional practices may include psychological testing, alcohol or drug testing, a psychiatric history check, Based on your facility's population or state regulations, you will need to determine the extent of your screening. And again, run it by your counsel for recommendations. So let's check for the following. Make sure these are in place. On the screening, when you have your written application, it should include a release giving permission to verify the information provided is accurate and that criminal history and records may be checked. The application must be signed by the applicant. Your written application should have wording acknowledging that false information is grounds for termination or other actions. When conducting your personal interviews, a standardized process should be used so there is consistency and the interviewer has training on how to probe into areas needing additional clarification. Notes should be maintained so that you can go back, and if there's that gut feeling that something isn't quite right, you can refer to your notes and ask for additional information. Reference checks are done with the written consent of the applicant for release of the information. This may help in gathering information from prior employers. Volunteers, another part of your heart. It is key that volunteers are screened as thoroughly as staff. You cannot assume that the sweet grandma or college student that is volunteering would never do anything to harm a child. We must be diligent in the selection of who we have in contact with children being cared for. You may also need to consider screening of the vendors that you have permitted on the premises. Are you having a dance instructor or a music teacher coming in on a regular basis? If so, screening should be completed to ensure they are safe to have around the children. This may be done by requiring certificates of insurance, checking the National Child Sex Offender Public Registry, and requiring references. After we've hired the right people, training is essential. Training is not just a once and done. It is done on a three-prong approach. Ongoing, well, initially first, then ongoing and periodically. Training is based on your policy and procedures. Training should be documented and acknowledged by your employees and or volunteers. Understanding of the training should be demonstrated back at the time and then observed on the job. And again, document it as you see it. So let's check for the following. Here are some of our basic training requirements. First aid and CPR. There should always be someone on site with current CPR and first aid training. And this would also be the case when going on a field trip. So if you have some people out of the facility and some people in, then we need both to be certified. Emergency plans and procedures. This would include what to do in the event of natural disasters, and we are all very well, as of the current state of events with Irma and Harvey, that natural disasters are occurring. So we need to have our plans in place, as well as when urgent medical care is required, when there's a power failure, bomb threat, workplace violence, which would include unauthorized visitors like a non-custodial parent, domestic violence situation, an active shooter situation. There should be plans in place and there should be drills to ensure understanding of what should be done. Recognition and prevention of child abuse and neglect, making sure they not only understand how to identify, but the reporting responsibilities and the community resources available. They should have training on that. Prevention of infectious disease would include your universal precautions, caring for ill and mildly ill children, sanitation and hand washing requirements, as well as your staff health guidelines, what to do when they're sick, what to do, what the requirements are for them on your health screening. Medication administration, we'll have the record keeping, the proper storage and labeling, the permissions in place. You want to have training on notification of when you notify the parent that something had been given, as well as allergies and reactions. How do we document that? How do we account for that in the day-to-day workings? You're going to have preventing and record keeping and responding to food allergies, safe food handling, choking hazards, Safe sleep practices to prevent SIDS, and all of these go back to those ones that cause the fatalities and the serious injuries, if you think back to it. Prevention of shaken baby syndrome. Indoor and outdoor safety, so your inspection and preventative maintenance for the outside. What inspections are taking place? How often are they documented? How do you follow up? Restricted areas. So we have restricted areas, training needed on what consists of the restricted items, chemicals, medicines, the kitchen, water hazards. We should be trained on how we restrict those areas and how we store things in those areas. Safe transport. This includes the same as selecting we're going to select and screen the people that are going to transport our children. So an MVR screen would be key here. Training them and the supervision. Distracted driving. You should have a policy on distracted driving. First aid kit. What's included on your transport, your backup vehicle, preventative maintenance on the vehicle, how we're handling the seat restraints in the vehicle. All of that should be part of the training. We'll also talk about emerging training topics. As we talked about ongoing, new things come up all the time. So some of the emerging topics for training are bullying, diversity, and social media. In the news, there was a Snapchat video that appeared on August 17th, 2017, where it showed a daycare worker hitting kids at a South Carolina daycare. Comments with the news story, the owner said, trust was broken last night and today between parents in this community. So that's very true. We want to make sure that we are watching what is happening out there. In Arizona, there was another case where a daycare owner posted on Craigslist, "Beware of this kid, he bites." If you don't want to put out on social media anything that you wouldn't want to see about yourself or your children. So things to watch for. Policies and procedures should not be new to anyone, any of these in your industry. We touch on them because this should all be second nature to you. If I say medication administration, you should be able to know the requirements around that, and you should be able to know you were trained and tested on it. Parents are trusting that you know what you're doing and will watch over their children. So once we hire the right person or bring on the right volunteer and train them, our next area with people is supervision. And this consists of the ratio of children to caregivers, that we must maintain this to ensure a safe working environment. With lack of supervision, a variety of loss scenarios come into play. There could be a slip and fall or trip, a child-on-child interaction, an animal bite, equipment failure, all which may result in injury, slight or severe, or death. We've all seen horrific news headlines that read, "Florida daycare driver arrested in death of 3-year-old left in vehicle." That's one of those 36 children that die in a vehicle each year. Boy 1 found dead at a child care after being left alone with 8-year-old child suspected in death. So here we have an 8-year-old that actually was hitting this child, the 1-year-old, because it was crying, with a paddle, and they found the child dead later. Toddler dies after choking at Federal Building Daycare Center. Again, the supervisor was not in the room when this happened. 4-year-old girl feared missing when the daycare gives child to the wrong parent. So that's the sign out, the policies and procedures we have in place. And then the St. Louis area child care centers are seeing reports on child sex acts. Where's the supervisors? So these examples are tragic losses, and they show up in the local news, national news, and online. All situations involve policy and procedures that could have prevented the loss with proper supervision. But what is common and what we often see coming into play is a deviation from our own policy and procedures. The deviation will often lead to justification. I've seen comments in claim files, reports of the child care worker was distracted for a second and forgot about X, or someone called in sick so staffing was down but, or so-and-so's grandma was in town and wanted to help drive on the outing. So many times justification leads to devastation. Policies and procedures are put into place to avoid loss. If we are trained and we know what to do and actually take the time needed to do the right thing versus the quick or easy thing, we can prevent tragedy. I've heard it said by a colleague of mine, complacency leads to catastrophe. So just like justifying can be devastating, not doing anything is as bad. Child abuse can also be considered neglect out of laziness. Examples, I know that the back gate latch is broken and I'll get to it next week. Or the toys need inspecting and replacing, but I'm going to wait for that upcoming sale. You get my point. Sometimes a little time or money spent on doing the right thing at the right time will save you a lot more in the long run. It may save your reputation as well. No one wants their name on a headline unless they are praising you or acknowledging you for your good work. So remember, if you're maxed out or checked out, a loss can occur. This call, mom warns of broken equipment at daycare following death of one-year-old daughter. They had a broken crib and the daughter choked. So again, they had an inspection program, not doing it, kind of saw it was there, but nothing had happened so far, and there was no warning flashing lights going off. Complacency led to tragedy or catastrophe there. We've discussed the heart of the operations, the people side, covering selection, training, and supervision. Now let's look at the physical inside of your building and operations and where hazards may exist. Of course, there are numerous exposures, but today we will touch on the most common ones that are causing small and large incidents or losses. Toys. Toys should be inspected and sanitized and appropriate for the age of children using them. They should be stored properly, not in toy chests with hinges. So if you have a toy chest, make sure they have air holes and a lid support or no lid at all. Discard any toys that are broken or damaged immediately. Make sure that you're signed up for the Consumer Safety Product Commission, that's cspc.gov, free newsletter. This will keep you up to date on any new recalls or warnings. You can also follow them on Twitter. Recently in the news, there was a choking hazard in May of 2017 that prompted a recall of stuffed animals. So there's always some toy that's being discovered that can cause an issue. Look out for those fidget spinners that are really popular right now and kids are playing with. If they're bringing toys in from home, the fidget spinner is now considered one of the 10 most dangerous toys available this summer in 2017, as noted on Forbes.com. So even the latest craze can have its downside. Shelves and furniture are, every 45 minutes a child is treated in an ER due to a TV tipping over. There are heavy pieces of furniture secured to the wall. If it's over 4 feet, bolt it using an L-shaped bracket. Does your furniture have the wide bases and rounded corners? And you want that, even though we think they won't cause injury. I know sometimes they will if they fall against it, but as a kid, I fell against a table and still have the scar on my chin from that fall. Do children have access to televisions or heavier equipment? June 2016, child killed by a falling TV at the Athens Daycare. So a 5-year-old stood on a TV stand and then the TV fell over on him. And the first responders, they called, for the ambulance, went in to treat a child they said that was suffering from a nosebleed. So the first responders didn't realize that the TV had fallen on this child and determined that he had severe injuries, so they took him into the hospital and he died later of his internal injuries. Restricted areas. So there should be restricted access to all poisons and toxic substances, medicines and cleaning supplies. Access to the kitchen should be restricted, not only because of toxic substances, but we have knives in there, we have the hot, we have flame if there's a gas stove involved, so that should be restricted from the children. Any area where water can be accessed, bathtubs, buckets, diaper pails, toilets, without proper supervision, and someone with a child, they should not have access. And the top and bottom of stairs should be securely installed with guards or gates. So a lot of falls downstairs or at the top of the stair going down, even outside. So as they're going outside, watch that. Windows. Make sure that sliding windows open no more than 3.5 inches, so you can use window guards. Strangulation, another big thing. We all know about the hanging cords, but even curtains, keep it out of their reach. There are some blinds now that you can get that you don't even have a cord, that you pull them down and then you can push this little button and they can pull back up. Also with windows, marking clear glass doors to make them more visible. You don't want children running in or through anything like a glass door. And just as a heads up, National Window Safety Week is April 3rd through the 9th. Doors. Such a common thing everywhere, but such a hazard for little kids who like to put their fingers everywhere. So look out for pinch protection hardware. Injuries are common and can range from a bruise or a cut to smashed fingers to broken bones to even amputation. So make sure children, when you're lining them up, are not lining up on the side of the door that opens and closes. Go instead to the latch side. That gives you a little bit more control over that situation. All electrical outlets not in use within a child's reach should be tamper resistant or have safety covers attached by a screw. So make sure all your outlets and electrical cords that are in use are out of reach. And there's a variety of items available. These are some that are on Amazon that are guards that can keep children from getting to the outlet covers. So general safety. Overall, there should be no small objects around. They present a choking hazard. So think about that as they're laying around. And not only that, but a trip and fall. Carpets and rugs should lay flat to prevent trip and falls. Are your walkways clear of clutter? And I would be remiss if I didn't point out to have working and testing smoke detectors, and they should be replaced every 10 years, and carbon monoxide alarms, which should be replaced every 5 years, and fire extinguishers that really have no expiration date, but manufacturers say they should work for 5 to 15 years. Check your emergency lighting and ensure that you always have 2 clear, and I'm emphasizing clear, exits out of the building. With the inside of the building, remember, like with people, to screen or select the right equipment. So if it's a toy or furniture or gate, you pick the right equipment for what you need, and then you train your staff on how to not only use it, but how to inspect and maintain it. We want to make sure that just because we have something doesn't mean that we're not going to have to keep up on it. In addition, supervision is needed to ensure the equipment is set up properly, so shelves are secured, and maintained properly. Broken toys are discarded, so as a supervisor, you're making sure all of this is happening, and used properly. So we're not having children climb on TV stands. We're not having them have that access to where something might happen. We've covered a lot of ground today. In fact, we didn't make it outside yet. However, I would like you to come back and join me for another session that will cover daycare operations from the outside. It will include information on outdoor play equipment, transporting children, building security, and field trips. As we wrap up today, I want to provide you with some resources that can assist you in developing solutions for your risk management needs. The websites listed will provide additional information on topics covered today. I want to highlight our own nationwide site, mylosscontrolservices.com. We have a variety of ways to service your needs. There are technical bulletins and articles on a wide range of topics, as well as a full video library. Additionally, there are 2 great features for you to get personal interaction with our loss control services team. Click to chat will allow you to ask a question and get an answer back immediately. We also have virtual consultation, which allows you to schedule an appointment with a member of our team, which will let you spend time on a topic that you are needing guidance or assistance with. Whichever feature you use, we are sure you will find a solution for your needs. Some of the other websites up here, cspc.gov. That's where you can sign up to get information on recalls. You can also go there when you're looking at your playground equipment and what you need to have in place there. It's a great resource. Child Care Aware is one of America's most trusted child care resources. They help families not only learn how to locate and choose quality child care in their communities, but they provide a variety of resources from webinars to articles on child safety. Safe Kids is a worldwide organization protecting kids from unintentional injuries. And so they work to reduce traffic injuries, drowning, falls, burns, poisonings, and more. They will also give resources, bulletins, posters. It's a great organization. The U.S. Department of Justice National Sex Offender Public website, that will help you be able to screen your new employees as well as your volunteers and vendors if need be. If you go down to Homeland Security, you're wondering why that's on here, that's where you would go for anything with active shooter. They have everything available for you, from training resources to forms. Just a great website for you to go look at that. Darkness to Light, I'm going to highlight that one also. Darkness to Light is a nonprofit committed to empowering adults to prevent child sexual abuse. Another great website where you can go on, and there's a small fee, but you go through the entire training. You can do it online, or they have trainers available throughout the U.S. You can just search your area to see when someone would be giving their training. And they do it at various places. So these are just people throughout the U.S. that have a passion for this, get trained in being a certified trainer, and go forward with that. So now I'm going to break to see if there's any questions out there. So we'll take a few minutes to see if anybody has any questions.
All right, thank you, Mary. There have been a couple of questions. I'll go ahead and fire these off if you're ready. The first question is, you mentioned toys and the need to sanitize the toys. How often do you recommend that a daycare owner or provider would sanitize toys? And is there a recommended best practice for which solution or what type of sanitation or sanitization to use on toys that you'd find in a daycare?
I recommend any toy that goes in a child's mouth is done after that child is finished playing with that toy. So daily, for sure, on all your toys should be sanitized. As far as the mixture is concerned, I know on one of the sites I listed, it has the mixture, and I will put an FAQ out there for frequently asked questions and get that, what that mixture will be for you.
All right. All right. The other question that came in is the ongoing training slide that you had gone through. There's a variety of very important topics on that. Do you find it's a best practice for a daycare provider to simply have a let's get everybody caught up on training on January 1st of each year? Or do you find that it's more effective that they say cover SIDS prevention 1 month and then they do another topic another month? Is there a recommended best practice on how you get all that critical training in front of the people who need it?
So as we all know, there's a lot of turnover in this industry. So the main thing to do is have it ongoing as a, okay, I prefer to see as a best practice that you're doing something each month as a training topic. And there might be training topics that need to be done more than once a year. So if you've had a turnover in staff, maybe the child abuse recognition, reporting, community resources is done at the beginning of the year and mid-year. And then the topic, there'll be certain topics that are ongoing because they're new to the industry. So that might be, oh, look, if you all remember when the Pokemon craze was big, and people were going on your site, you had to have some controls in place. You didn't want people running all through your organization as they're trying to find Pokemon. So as that training needs, as new things emerge, that's when you're going to have an ongoing training and do that. There should be always, I would say, beginning of the year or sometimes in the fall, like back to school, almost like back to work kind of mentality and have a fall. Let's reinvigorate and re-energize and focus, because we all know that the holidays come up, things get a little crazy and busy. So fall's a great time. The beginning of the year is a great time. So maybe quarterly or monthly would be my recommended suggestions for your ongoing training, and have those topics. As you're coming up into summer, you're going to want to address the reminders about the don't leave anybody in a car in the heat, or even how are you applying bug spray if you're applying bug spray or sunscreen. All of those topics that are part of your general education, as you get into that time of year, reminders all the time, because it should be second nature. We're counting as a parent, and you have my child, for it to be second nature to you. So if those reminders are needed, even in a weekly, like, text out to everybody, hey, it's this day, let's do this, or remember this. Anything to help keep safety in the forefront is going to help your organization.
Okay, appreciate that, Mary. I agree with that, and find that that's if you can offer the training to people at the time when they're most likely to need it, that's going to hit home a lot and be a lot more effective. That was all for the questions that had come in, Mary, so go ahead and continue on with your prepared remarks.
Great. Thanks, Chris. So I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day today, and hopefully any fear or frustration you've had in your safety efforts have been turned to joy with solutions to reduce your risk. I look forward to having you join me again when we present part 2 of Inside Out, and I just hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for sharing your expertise. Obviously, very vast knowledge on this topic. Lots of good tips in there that our audience was able to take from this talk this morning. And as Mary mentioned, please continue to visit us at mylosscontrolservices.com for more loss control information specific to your daycare or other topics that might be of interest to you, and also to register for our future webinars. So we'll be planning on part 2 of this, where Mary talks about hazards outside of the daycare sometime early in 2018. So check in with us on the website frequently to get registered for that one as well. And with that, we again know that there's a lot of ways that you could have spent your time this morning, and we certainly appreciate that you spent it with Nationwide Loss Control Services. And without any further questions coming in, thanks again, Mary, and to everyone for attending, and we'll see you again next time.